The single best advice that I could possibly give to a high school student is join clubs. Literally, I truly believe that's literally the best advice that I could give to a high school student. Join clubs. Like you could kind of say this about university students as well, but it is a little different there. But genuinely, if you're in high school, or even people that already left high school, that they could probably say the same thing, especially if they did some clubs at least. But like I don't have regrets really in life, but if I could have went back, I definitely would have joined more clubs, or I would have definitely participated much more in the clubs that I was already in, because genuinely it's like the best possible one of the best possible things that you can do in high school. And I'll tell you a few reasons that come to my mind. I think the number one reason, especially for a lot of people that feel like they don't really have many friends or kind of feel lonely, is you meet so many great people. And like the best thing, I mean, it really depends on like your school and stuff. I mean, obviously here in North America, I'm sure the US and Canada both have like have significant amount of clubs at their schools, especially most schools. I don't know how it is in Europe because I used to live in Europe, but I was young, so clubs weren't really a thing back then. I know there's a few things like after school club and stuff like that, and obviously you could be part of sports teams, but I'm not particularly sure how it was in high school because I left by then. I was here in Canada, but yeah, for my school, particularly the high school I went to, we had over 30 clubs. I'll probably say more than 40 clubs. So there was like a wide variety of clubs you could join. And I'll give you some examples. We had clubs like Ultimate Frisbee. We had a club called Sports Analytics, where you just play fantasy league. Like how fun is that? You had Key Club, where you could literally get volunteer hours, which was a high school requirement in our state. You had a club for like environmental club, or it was called like Leaf Club or something. A lot of people were into that. We had a club for the journal where we just wrote articles, and every like semester kind of thing, or like the fall, winter, summer thing, we had a newspaper come out, and you could be part of that. And that was one of the clubs I was in, and it was definitely my most favorite club to be part of in high school. I wrote a lot of different things. I started off writing about sports. I remember, I'm pretty sure my first article that I ever wrote was about the NBA 75 list. And I just talked about how, a few people were snubbed out of it. I'm sure I mentioned Tracy McGrady, Dwight Howard. I think I talked about was it Pau Gasol, like one of the Gasol brothers, or was it Lopez? The guy that played with Kobe. I forgot if it was. I think it was a Gasol, Pau Gasol. Pretty sure I'm talking about him. Kyrie, I don't think he made it, and some people like Davis made it, especially Lillard. I don't know if he should have gotten it over Kyrie, but that was really enjoyable. Like I really enjoyed doing that. Like I really like writing and just yapping. So that was like one of the best things to do. And like literally people got to read that. At the time, like when I first joined the club in like grade 10, it was online. But in my like last year, we had newspapers like digital again, which was really nice. And I do remember that in grade 12, I did a advice section. So I just got questions that people asked me. I gathered them and I just answered them, and I gave some good advice. And it was really funny because I remember one of my friends, like she literally like told me about it, and she's because I think one of the questions was like, how do you make friends or something? And I said just pay them or something. Just pay their mom, like parents, so they're friends with you. So she said that joke to me, like, how much do you charge or something? It was funny. But that was nice to know because it actually meant that some people actually took their time to read that. So that was one of my like favorite like memories, kind of just being part of that club. And a lot of the people in that club were also like good friends of mine. So it was just amazing. And that's what I mean. Like there was countless of clubs. Like there was a club for like Jeopardy Club. Is that the show? Like a quiz club where you like answer those questions, like those random like yeah, Jeopardy, right? I think it's called Jeopardy. There was a club for rowing, like a lot of sports clubs that weren't able to be actual sports teams. So they were more of an outside thing. Like I was part of Ultimate Frisbee. We had tournaments once a year. Like it was awesome. Like it was so much fun because you just met people that like had similar interests to you. And that's always much easier, even for someone like me that I don't really open up that easy to new people because I'm kind of like stone cold. I just they like it takes some time until I really feel comfortable around you. So at first I'm quite of a quiet guy. I probably look pissed all the time. I don't know, but that's just how I am. But if you have something in common with these people, it's much easier to, I guess, feel comfortable with them, and sometimes you become friends with them. I wouldn't say I met many new people, because if I'm being honest, I kind of stuck with the people that I already knew. But the people that I already knew, I definitely became much closer to them. I definitely met some new people. I wouldn't say that they're my friends now that I left high school. But at the time, it was nice knowing new people. Some of the teachers, you got to know them. That definitely helps sometimes, especially if you have their class later on. Um, but yeah, joining clubs has so many benefits. Apart from just meeting new people, it's just such an amazing thing for like your resume or scholarships. I think scholarships is probably one of the biggest things because I know a lot of people sometimes might not be I don't want to say the brightest because like at the end of the day, your intelligence isn't really defined by your grades. Being able to get like 90s, hundreds, like A pluses, A's, even like B's, like it's not really dependent on your IQ. It's more about how well you can like study, if that makes sense. Obviously, if you're really intelligent, it probably is much easier, but it's not always the case. Because you know how they always say the thing like, oh, the C students were the millionaires. But then again, also, that doesn't mean that millionaires are always the smartest. They just actually took action. I feel like sometimes that's kind of a weakness of some people that are very intelligent. They always want to be perfect, which stops them from creating something. Even with schoolwork, I don't want to. I don't want to say I'm an intelligent, the smartest of the smartest, but I'll definitely say I'm somewhat smart. And I remember a lot of the times I was always aiming for perfection instead of just starting, and then that would cause procrastination. And then the next thing you know, you're like one day you have one day left till you have to submit your work, and then I usually got a good grade, but still it was just much more pressure that I didn't have to put myself through. But yeah, in terms of scholarships, obviously not everyone's going to have the highest grades, so in terms of that, it just helps significantly to stand out. I would say a lot of specific scholarships are also based off community involvement and extracurriculars. So if you're part of a club, and especially if you're able to have a executive leadership position, it really does make you stand out. Because first of all, you can talk about your personal experiences, which makes you unique, and people always care about you. They want to hear your story, your uniqueness. So that's for one. Everyone likes money, especially if you plan on going to university or college. Even 1,000, 2,000, even 5,000, like that's a lot of money. It helps. Even if you got a $500 scholarship, that's better than nothing. Am I wrong? No. And outside of that, also you can use it to your advantage in resumes as well, especially when you're younger and you don't have much experience. Like I remember that's what I did. I was part of Key Club, and I did use that to my advantage in certain positions. And although I didn't have an executive position, I was so involved in the club that I had many personal, unique experiences that I talked about where I could still show leadership skills. Because some of the interview questions they'd be asking me, like, when was the time you showed leadership? Or when was the time where you went through a difficult situation and you were able to overcome it, right? And I had plenty of those experiences to talk about, and they related to what I did in school, or outside of school with extracurriculars. So it's just perfect. It's genuinely perfect. So I would say those three things are probably the biggest benefits of clubs. In my opinion, just all around, there's like no negatives about clubs. You meet new people. It benefits you with resume, scholarships, connections. Don't forget that. I don't want to, if you're in high school right now and you're like 15 or something, I don't want to, stress you, but as you get older, especially when you get to, if you go to university or college, but even if you don't, you're always going to need connections. Being able to speak to others and network with them is like probably the most important skill. And a lot of the time I never really like took that into consideration. I'm not gonna lie, I was always the type of guy that thought that I'll just work really hard and my work would show for itself. Like my work, like what I mean by that is I'm saying I would work so hard that what I did would be enough. Like people could see that and they'd be like, okay, nice. Yeah, we'll hire you. Or yeah, you're the perfect candidate. But as nice as that sounds, it's not always the case. And not having connections always makes it much more difficult. Because at the end of the day, if you have two students and one is very hardworking and one is like still a hard worker, but maybe not as hardworking as this guy, if this guy has the right connections, he's gonna have it much easier than this guy. And there's no question about it. It's just how it works. A lot of kids in my neighborhood are like, my neighborhood is very rich. I'm not rich myself, but my neighborhood, sorry, I'm stuttering a lot. I need a water break, I'm not gonna lie. As I was saying, my neighborhood is very rich. So these parents of these kids are extremely wealthy. So a lot of the times these kids can kind of get away with literally doing nothing because they're literally secured internships. They have secured internships. They don't have to stress in school. Their grades can be whatever. They can be mediocre. They can fly by. They don't have to impress anyone because they're guaranteed an internship from their own parents or from who my dad knows, right? Like, oh, I'm gonna have an internship next summer. My dad's friend at KPMG or Deloitte, he'll secure me one. Like, that's not the case here. I don't want to say I grew up poor, but I don't have these connections. I don't, so I have to make these connections. And I think I'm doing an okay job, but obviously, as I said, yeah, I'm not really the most eager one to go out of my comfort zone and just introduce myself to others. It's not really my cup of tea, I guess you could say. And also, not gonna lie, networking to some extent kind of feels like you're just sucking up to people. You're kind of just being fake and just doing your best to impress them, which isn't really something I like. But there's different types of networking, like you don't have to be that type of person. You can just go to a networking event, ask questions that you'd like to know the answer to. You can introduce yourself to some people. You can ask them to introduce themselves to you, and that works as well. You don't always have to be, the most extroverted individual, right? So I think that's really all I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to make this quick video because I do wish I was part of more clubs and that the clubs I was part of, I did like take more of an effort, because there was definitely a lot of times where there were certain clubs I joined and then I didn't commit to them and I just left them, or the clubs that I was part of, I definitely missed out sometimes. Like I remember a lot of my club meetings in my last year were during lunch. So a lot of the times I would just not show up just because I wanted to play basketball during lunch, or I just wanted to be with my friends instead. And like, don't get me wrong, sometimes I think that's okay, especially if sometimes you have to study for a test as well. But being in those club meetings, even though sometimes they might be boring, it's also sometimes amazing. I've had some amazing club meetings, man. And as I said, you meet so many great people and so many like-minded people. I think joining clubs genuinely is one of the best like things that you can like do, or like one of the best possible decisions that you can do for yourself during high school. Even in university is really good, because in university a lot of the clubs that they have, like for example, I'm studying like business, like accounting and finance. I'm doing a double major. If I join like a club specifically in my faculty, like that's experience, especially if I get to like an executive position. I apply for it and I, get past the resume, the interview, and I get that position, that really helps with internships. Like, especially if you don't have the experience yet, recruiters will look at that and will be like, okay, well, he's part of his school. Apart from having, solid grades, he's also doing stuff outside of school. People really care about that. And I'm not gonna like lie to you and say that I'm part of clubs in my university, but I do stuff outside of university. I volunteer as a tutor. I'm a tutor volunteer at this one nonprofit organization. I'm also a financial analyst at this other nonprofit organization, which is probably the best experience I was lucky enough to get. And then I also have a normal job. So I definitely have many extracurriculars, and my grades are very solid. Which, when I do start applying for internships in my second and third year, I will definitely be able to stand out compared to some other students that don't really do much apart from go to school, half-ass it, and party during the weekends, right? But at the end of the day, I think everyone will be fine, really. Not gonna lie. Like, you might not have the greatest job, but like, if not everyone wants that, right? Like, some people don't have to do all of that because a lot of jobs, like especially the accounting field, is like are very secure. So you'll have a job no matter what, really. You might be getting paid like 60,000, but if that's all you really care, like if that's good enough for you, then you shouldn't be going through the extra troubles. The people that usually do the most are the people that are really trying to make it like big, right? Like, especially when you go to like specific schools like University of Toronto, or like not necessarily University of Toronto, but more like Queens or Western. Like, those students usually, especially if they really work hard and they join clubs and get some good internships, they want to work at those big companies, and they want to be investment bankers, right? And realistically, only those top schools can really do that. And those students usually work very hard to get into that position. And some students might just go to their local university because it's the cheapest option. They're still going to have a good job in life, but they're not trying to be an investment banker and make 120,000 right out of university. Like, they can take their time and build up their experience till they make that same amount of money in a couple of years. So everyone has it different, but I would just say that joining clubs is just super beneficial. There's always something you can do, and I feel like it's better to be a part of a club because sometimes, especially in high school, I feel like you have a lot of free time, and like high school isn't necessarily so hard, and you shouldn't just be home. You should always be outside. So even if you can join like one like sport club, that's good, and then another club where you can just really enjoy yourself and do something that you're proud of. I know there's art club in my school. There's a lot of like music clubs, like specific type of instruments, and those clubs would also perform whenever we had assemblies. So there's always countless of opportunities at schools. I know that some people might be unlucky and they might not have clubs at their school, which at that point I do feel very sorry for you because that is unfortunate and that you weren't lucky enough to have these same blessings as I. But for most part, if you're watching this video and you do have the opportunity, I truly recommend to join a club. Please do stuff like around your high school, like do things within your high school. Be part of the community and help. Just help your community, be part of it, and it'll greatly benefit you no matter what. That's about it, really. Peace out.